Have you ever thought about changing your life? Maybe you've considered moving to another city, dreamed about learning a new language, or promised yourself that you'd start exercising, save money, or do something you've been putting off for years. Today's story is about Daniel. He wanted to change his life, but he couldn't decide where to start. Daniel was 28 and worked in an office he didn't enjoy. Every morning he hated getting up early. He didn't mind working hard, but he disliked spending 8 hours at the same desk. He often dreamed about traveling, meeting new people, and learning about different cultures. But Daniel was afraid of making a big change. He kept telling himself, maybe I should wait. Maybe next year will be better. Maybe I can save more money first. Every year, he continued doing exactly the same thing. One Monday morning, Daniel arrived at work feeling especially tired. After reading his emails, he noticed a message from his manager. His manager wanted to discuss changing Daniel's position. At first, Daniel thought about accepting it. He would earn more money, but he would also work longer hours. Daniel didn't feel like spending even more time in the office, so he started considering looking for another job. During lunch, Daniel met his friend Mike. Have you ever thought about moving abroad? Of course. I've thought about moving abroad hundreds of times. So what's stopping you? I'm worried about failing. You can't spend your whole life worrying about failing. Daniel agreed. I want to travel, but I don't know how to begin. Mike suggested making a plan. Daniel started searching for countries. After spending 20 minutes looking at different places, he found a city that looked interesting. The weather was warm, the cost of living was reasonable, and there were plenty of opportunities for remote workers. Daniel immediately became interested in learning more. That evening, instead of watching television, Daniel spent hours reading about life there. He watched videos about the culture, read about finding an apartment, and started practicing the local language. Daniel was surprised by how excited he felt. He had spent years talking about changing his life, but he had never actually tried doing it. Now he was finally taking action. The next morning, Daniel made a list. Save enough money, talk to his boss, find a place to live, organize his documents, book a flight. Daniel knew that moving abroad wouldn't be easy. He expected to have problems, but he decided to try. For the next 3 months, Daniel worked hard. He avoided spending money on things he didn't need. He stopped eating at expensive restaurants and even considered selling his car. Every evening, he practiced speaking the local language. He wasn't very good at speaking it yet, but he kept trying. Sometimes he made terrible mistakes, but he didn't give up. He understood that making mistakes was part of learning. One Friday, Mike called him. How's your plan going? I'm still working on it. Have you booked your flight? Not yet. Why not? Daniel was silent. He realized that he was still afraid. He had managed to save enough money, finished organizing his documents, and found an apartment. Everything was ready, but he hadn't booked the flights. Mike said, "You keep talking about leaving, but you haven't actually left." Daniel laughed. "You're right." "Then stop worrying and book the flight." Daniel opened his laptop, searched for flights, and clicked book. For a few seconds he stared at the screen. He couldn't believe it. He had finally done it. He had promised himself that he would change his life, and now he was actually doing it. He felt nervous about leaving his job and sad about saying goodbye to his friends, but he was excited about starting something new. The following Monday, Daniel told his manager that he had decided to leave the company. "Are you sure about leaving?" "I've thought about it carefully." His manager tried to convince him to stay. He offered Daniel a higher salary and even suggested giving him a promotion, but Daniel refused to stay. He had already made his decision. On his final day, his colleagues organized a small goodbye party. One colleague asked, "Are you afraid of moving to another country?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Yes, I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of making mistakes. I'm afraid of feeling lonely. But I'm more afraid of staying here and never finding out what I could have done." The next morning, Daniel arrived at the airport with 2 bags and a backpack. Before entering, he stopped to check his passport. Then he stopped worrying about everything else. After boarding the plane, Daniel looked out of the window. He remembered all the times he had dreamed about traveling. He remembered saying, maybe next year. He remembered postponing his plans. Then he realized something. The hardest part wasn't moving. The hardest part was deciding to start. After arriving in his new country, Daniel had to solve many problems. His apartment wasn't as nice as it looked online. The weather was hotter than expected, and he struggled to communicate. He even got lost on his first day. But instead of complaining, Daniel tried to enjoy the experience. He started meeting new people, practiced speaking the language, joined a local sports club, and slowly became more comfortable. One evening, Mike sent him a message. "Do you regret leaving?" Daniel smiled. "No, I regret waiting so long." Now let's look at the grammar from the story. We used verbs followed by gerunds. Enjoy traveling, avoid spending, consider selling, keep trying, finish organizing, suggest making, and mind making. We use a gerund after these verbs. I enjoy learning English. She avoided talking about it. They suggested going home. We also used verbs followed by infinitives. Want to travel, decide to leave, hope to change, promise to start, manage to save, refuse to stay, plan to move, and expect to have. For example, I want to learn. She decided to leave. They hope to travel. He promised to help. Some verbs can be followed by either a gerund or infinitive with a little change in meaning. I like traveling. I like to travel. She started learning English. She started to learn English, but some verbs change meaning. Daniel stopped to check his passport. This means he stopped another activity because he wanted to check his passport. Daniel stopped worrying. This means he ended the activity of worrying. He remembered to book the flight. He didn't forget to book it. He remembered booking the flight. He had a memory of booking it. Daniel tried to speak the language. He attempted to speak it. Daniel tried speaking the language. Speaking it was an experiment or possible solution. Now an important pattern. Preposition plus gerund. After a preposition, we normally use a gerund. Good at speaking, worried about failing, afraid of making mistakes before moving after arriving, without saying goodbye instead of watching television. So remember, gerund after some verbs. Enjoy learning, avoid making, consider changing, keep trying, suggest going, finish doing. Infinitive after some verbs, want to learn, decide to leave, hope to improve, plan to travel, promise to help, refuse to stay. Preposition plus gerund. Interested in learning, good at speaking, afraid of failing, before leaving, after arriving, without saying, instead of waiting. And maybe Daniel's story has one final lesson. If you've been thinking about learning English, don't just think about it. Start practicing. If you've been avoiding making mistakes, remember that mistakes are part of learning. And if you're afraid of failing, don't let that stop you from trying. Sometimes the biggest mistake isn't failing, it's never starting. Keep learning, keep practicing, and don't give up.